But now to some very strong words from Nigel Farage. He hit out at the government and said that many traditional Tory voters have simply lost trust in the party. Well, I'm with somebody from that party, Lee Anderson, the deputy chairman. Nigel saying trust is at an all-time low and people might be thinking about crossing over to vote for reform. What's your take on that?
Well, I've got a lot of time for Nigel. He's a colleague, Martin, on this news channel, and he's probably one of the reasons that I've got my seat in Ashfield. He campaigned to leave the European Union. He did very well with UKIP. That was polling. They was getting about 10,000, 11,000 votes in places like Ashfield and Mansfield in 2015. And I think UKIP were actually winning by-elections at that time. But you see now, Reform, they're not winning by-elections. I think they're even struggling to scrape their deposit. And he's a great figurehead, is Nigel. He's been a great politician. He's done fantastic things. But Reform are a threat. They are a bigger threat to the country at the moment, I think, than the Labour Party, because if Reform do pick off a lot of us Conservative MPs at the next election, then what's going to happen is we're going to end up with a Labour government. And a Labour government is the last thing I want. I love my country. I love my country to bits. I don't want to see a Labour government. And I'm sure Nigel, in his heart of hearts, loves this country. In fact, I know he does. But he runs the risk of losing a lot of Tory seats like mine, to put some Labour Remainers, Remoaners back in power. You know what that means, Martin? That means that's a backdoor entrance back into the European Union. But I will say this: I'm not saying they're a one-man party, but he is the figurehead. Is Nigel? He does a great job. But I think if they want to have any inroads, then he has to stand. He has to be the leader of the party. He has to stand in the election because, I mean, poor old Richard Tice, got a lot of time for Richard, but, knock on doors in Ashfield, nobody's ever heard of him. And I know up in Hartlepool, he's not got that Hartlepool accent mastered yet. And I fail to see where they can win a seat. Our electoral system does not allow smaller parties like Reform to win seats. You know that. If they wanted to win seats, we would have to have proportional representation. Then maybe 5 million votes would give them, 30, 35 seats in the House of Commons. But as it stands, yes, I can understand why some of our voters are a little bit frustrated and angry, especially with the migration, the illegal and the legal migration. But Reform is not the answer. It leaves the door open for Sir Keir Starmer to get in number 10 and undo all the hard work we've tried to do so far.
A lot of people in 2019 said if you vote for the Brexit Party, you're going to split the vote and let Corbyn in. So you're saying a similar thing now. But a lot of people, even Conservative voters, might say, well, the Tories have had their chance.
Yeah, and I get that, Martin. I understand why people are frustrated. I understand why people are angry. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. A lot of my colleagues over in that place are frustrated and angry over the situation with the small boats, etc. But, at least we're trying with this new legislation that's in the Rwanda bill, the illegal migration bill, we're trying to get it sorted. If Reform do what they want to do, which they've said time and time again, and that's to kill us off as a party and put the Labour Party in, then all that work we've done so far, that's all undone. And, the Labour Party, I'm fairly confident, they've said it before, they're going to bring in voting for 16-year-olds. If that happens, Martin, then you might as well pack your bags and go and live in a different country because we will never get in power again.
So what would you like to see happen at the next general election?
Well, the small boats, that's critical for me, but...
I don't mean that. I'm talking about what would you like Reform to do? They've said they'll stand everywhere, including against you, and presumably you're not happy about that, because...
Well, they need to be honest.
What would you like to see them do?
I prefer them not to stand. I welcome the challenge in my constituency because, I think I can beat Reform. But they need to be honest with the public. It's all well and good. You've got leaders of political parties, Nigel and Ben and Richard. They're all wealthy men, self-made men. Good luck to them. But you know what? If Starmer gets the keys to number 10, they can go back to their nice big plush houses, penthouses, country retreats, whatever, shut the curtains and get on with their life. They'll be okay. The people I worry about is the people in Ashfield. They're my main concern. And the prospect of a Labour government terrifies me on behalf of my constituents in Ashfield.
And what do you think that Labour government would mean for people in seats like Ashfield?
Well, we just spoke earlier in the programme, Martin, about the illegal migration. They scrap all that. They've already said they'll scrap the Rwanda bill. They'll get rid of all that. So that means open borders. It means entry back into the European Union. It means the flights that we've talked about as well, going off to places like Jamaica, full of criminals, they'll stop. And the one thing that really concerns me is the unions, the trade unions. They're bubbling quietly beneath. They've kept quiet so far, but if the Labour Party get back into power, the Mick Lynches of this world will be rubbing their hands together. And these 35% pay rises asking for, they'll be 50%, Martin, mark my words.
And what's the mood like within the Conservative Party approaching this general election? The government, the media continually talks about there being a 1997 style wipeout.
No, I
So
mean,
do you think that's a bit over-exaggerated, or is it going to be tighter than...
It's the media being the media, Martin. They're looking for stories, they're looking for clicks. You know, my colleagues, and I tend to knock about with the Red Wallers, but each week I travel around the country, as you know. I do after dinner speaking at Conservative associations, whether that's the South West, South East, up in Scotland in a couple of weeks. I go all over the country, and the mood for the members is, you know, just deliver. Be Conservative, deliver, get the tax cuts in place at the next budget, prove that you're a proper Conservative party, and we'll get in. Because at the moment, and it's always been, it's been muted every single day on TV, through the media, that, yeah, people are grumpy with us as a party, but there's no love for Starmer, and there's not at all. He has got no charisma, he's got no policies. I mean, they bang on about us being in power for 13 years, which we have. It'll be 14 years now, they'll be saying. But they've been in opposition for 14 years and have not got one single policy.
So we're about to go into an election period. The smart money looks like a November call, so let it go a bit further. Might let the economy tick over a bit better for you lot. What would you say to people watching this show now who, and many of them get in touch saying they're a bit fed up with the Tories, to be frank.
Yes.
What would you say to them about why they should go blue again?
Well, they should vote for the Conservative Party because they've got Conservative MPs, Martin, in the party, like myself, who believe in strong Conservative values. You know, if the threat of reform is real, if they do what they want to do, then the proper Conservatives, which they class me as, I know they do, people like me who are strong on immigration, strong on protecting our borders, want to see a low tax, a small state government, they're going to get rid of people like me and put in some Labour MP. Is that what reform really want? I think not.
OK, strong words, superb stuff. Well, I mean, Lee, we got a quick 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you got to say? Say something to Richard Tice.
Richard, I think you're a great man. I think your heart's in the right place for the country. I get all that, but just be careful what you wish for, Richard, because if you do what you say you're going to do, then you run the risk of a Labour government ruining this country and ruining the prospects for thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people up and down this country. You know I'm a decent MP. You know I tick all the boxes. I agree with pretty much 80% of what you say. Do you really want to get rid of MPs like me?